Why should I care about my data?
Close your eyes. Imagine every text you've ever sent in your whole life. They can put that together. They can make conclusions about you. Suddenly on a database, this entire audience, but not just this entire audience, all your friends, all your team, and that never goes away.
You're training a model for whatever cultural context. You need that culture to be a part of the training.
This show is not suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
What's good, people? Got another video. Today's episode, I'll be talking about a very important topic. Let's get to it.
Colonialism.
AI colonialism. This is heavy. This is heavy. So
This is Meredith Whittaker, Signal President and Privacy Advocate. Just listen to this.
Why should I care about my data?
Okay. Close your eyes.
Oh,
Imagine every text you've ever sent in your whole life. Suddenly on a database, this entire audience, but not just this entire audience, all your friends, all your teachers, all your prospective employers, that job you might want 10 years from now, they can search that. They can find any term. They can put that together. They can make conclusions about you. And that never goes away.
I felt that.
I do care about that. Yeah, that's
So when I got an opportunity to speak to her about AI in Africa, of course I had to jump on it.
everybody, Meredith, everybody. This
Hey, everybody.
not explain.
So I'm guessing this is a very huge professional. I don't know her. This is my first time discovering her. Right. And but I'm guessing from what she's saying, it's about data security, privacy concerns and issues. And I'm happy to see an African interview. She seems European on a topic most people are not talking about. Let's get to it. I want to hear it.
Explain this, but you are such an eloquent force of nature when it comes to AI and privacy.
We try to be clear.
You succeed. You succeed. We focus on African AI. We are the youngest continent as far as AI is concerned. AI has not really hit us the way it's hit Europe and the US so drastically, where privacy no longer really exists. You really stood up for privacy. How would you advise us to get around this?
I want to be sensitive to not coming from the African context and saying that the knowledge of that is going to exist with the people who understand the context. And it has to start, I believe, with really thinking about what is the future for Africa, for Kenya.
Exactly. What is the future for Africa in AI? And I wrote a paper, and there's one of my papers that I presented in Mauritius, AI and vulnerabilities for the sub-Saharan Africa. And a lot of what she might be, and some of them, maybe I've covered them, but I want to hear more.
That the people there want to build. And so how does AI fit into that? Privacy is essential because privacy is about who has power to know you, who gets to tell your story. So you want to tell your own story, you got to make sure you're creating your own data. You got to make sure that there isn't an AI company thousands of miles away that have assumed they have a right to define who you are and where you fit in the world. And so I think that is just the fundamental paradigm on which other decisions around AI development, the direction of that development, data creation, data sovereignty, to use a tricky term there.
And this is the part where I really want to dig into it. The data sovereignty. That is a very huge factor at play right now. One of the papers I read, I think it talks more about data governance, imperialism, the global north versus the global south, and all these things, and having open data. A big question I've been asking on X and on several opportunities I get is, what have we been able to achieve with open AI? It's been monetized. It's presenting these risks right now that people are seeing. Not that I'm against AI, but the point I'm trying to make is the vulnerabilities are quite intense, and nobody, and I mean nobody, the big tech companies, the big powers that be in the capitalists, socialists, even communist communities, they're not fighting for this. They're not pushing this at the forefront. What they want to push is accuracy. Oh, it can do this for you. It can do that for you. But at what price? At what cost? And remember, there's an MIT study that was just released that AI dependency, depending on AI, causes cognitive weakening. Mind blowing, right? Because a lot of people are dependent on AI for what they should and could be able to do with their own natural heads. The vulnerabilities abound. Even when AI is safe, it's causing cognitive weakening. At what? so you can get your job done quickly? Now ask yourself, that is with the safe AI. That is if you use it responsibly. This is on the ideal case. Now ask yourself, how about security, privacy concerns? How about the biases? These are questions you should be asking. Let's let it run.
Deployment and use of AI, who gets to use it on whom,
Right.
need to be based on.
Right.
But it's a set of answers that have got to come from people who
continent
are
itself.
from the continent itself, because
Right.
that's where the knowledge is. You have hundreds of years of history of people coming in from Europe, assuming they have the right to tell the story, assuming they
Exactly. That is the data imperialism I'm talking about. Who has the right to tell the story? Who has the right to tell the story? And if we're being fair, if you did the work, you should tell the story. And we already know that a lot of the advances we have in AI and machine learning, deep learning, come from the global north. So it kind of makes sense that they're the ones telling the story. However, we're all humans. If AI is doing all these beautiful things, who gets to own it? Who gets to say that I get to decide what this AI is for, and who gets to benefit from it and who shouldn't benefit from it and who should be at a higher risk? Because there are vulnerable groups in every society. There's the children, the women, the pregnant women, the disabled people, a lot of them. And then these people have privacy concerns. They have vulnerability concerns, and nobody's talking about these things. So when you bring these things into context, who gets to tell the story? If it affects me, I think I should be able to tell the story. I should have the right to tell the story. And that is why, a major reason I got into the journey. I should be able to tell the story. I should be a part of the development of the policies, of the whatever it is that regulates its use. The problem right now is that it's not even being regulated as it should be. And that's where we are. Let's let it run.
They have the right to do what they want. That can't be replicated with AI. We can't have an AI colonialism.
AI
Yes,
colonialism.
we cannot
This
have
is
that.
heavy. This is heavy. So then there's this part. Currently, everything from inference to GPUs to compute is capital intensive. To a great
Yes.
extent, many of these governments are getting involved and allocating finances to build out the compute infrastructures for their countries. Africa has different priorities right now. Let's not lie about that, right? I don't see any African country, including South Africa, putting tens of millions.
He said it in a nice way. Africa has different priorities. We know what those priorities are. We've got older people, we've got expired people. Not to shade, but we don't have young leaders, except the one in Burkina Faso and some other countries. But for the most part, Africa is still battling corruption and infrastructural development and all that. So we're still not up there, but we could be doing something. South Africa is doing something beautiful. Rwanda's doing it, and Kenya, and I think Nigeria as well. And Mauritius, they've developed these data governance policies that are guiding the use of AI in their countries. So why can't we push on that? If they can do that, we can do more.
Hundreds of millions, billions of dollars towards it. Are there ways we can protect ourselves as small compute clusters from overarching commercial entities coming out of the States and Europe and even China to take up that data space and bring that data colonialism we've talked about?
We should be real that there are two poles, two centers of gravity in AI, and that is the US and that is China.
That's right.
3 companies in the US, Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, have 70% of the global cloud market. You have the massive hyperscaler platforms that developed out of the US and then China for different reasons created the platform business model. These are economies of scale. These are network effects that trend toward monopoly, which is what we see here. And these aren't things we can just invest in replicating, because when you're talking about that global reach, when you're talking about these platform business models, those are cross-subsidizing massive infrastructural investments. Those are controlling the standards, the tool chains, the framework. Those are controlling this way that data is created and collected, and those have the ability to continually collect and create more data through the massive user base, the massive platform reach. So those are all things that combine to create a significant advantage when it comes to this large-scale AI paradigm, which when we talk about the term AI, we're talking about these massive models that can cost $1 billion for one training run, and you're not even talking about the labor involved, you're not talking about the cost of doing reinforcement learning with human feedback, which is significant human labor. And
yes, and that's the part. I don't want to get too tech. I think she's a professional. She knows what exactly she's talking about. This is beautiful, and I like that. We've gone beyond the blind training, and we're like, okay, just throw in a few data and then boom, train a model, use it. That's irresponsible. A responsible style of training and using AI is to have reinforcement learning, human in the loop. You retrain and keep training. That's what reinforcement is. You're reinforcing the AI with human elements so that it performs better and more ethically. And that tells you something. There's a need for people, for human resource that can be able to teach that model that. Now imagine if you're training a model, let's say it's for Africa, and you're not training it with an African, you're not reinforcing it with an African. Ask yourself, are you really reinforcing that model for Africa, for Africans? Because at the end of the day, it's no cultural context. And it could be anything. It depends. I don't know. I'm just saying, hypothetically, you're training a model for whatever cultural context. You need that culture to be a part of the training. That presents a huge challenge that nobody's talking about. But I'm happy she is. Let's let it run. We're almost done.
Not talking about the cost of inference, which you just brought up, which is the use of the AI system, which is much more expensive and computationally intensive than, simply running software on a remote server.
Yep.
All of those things mean that the competitive advantage right now and for the foreseeable future will lie in the hands of these US hyperscalers who have access to data, compute, and access to market, and China. So what do you do about that? You have to change the game. You have to change the rules.
Yep.
Do you need massive AI, or are there contexts where smaller systems that are more tailor-made to your situation in whatever it is, where better data created in the African context that isn't reusing data that might not be appropriate or accurate or sensitive, better benchmarks, so you're evaluating these models in the context they're being used against real life outcomes, not against benchmarking data sets that may not represent that, particularly when those data sets were often created in different contexts, and where that development is looking at actually using less compute, less power, not beating the hyperscalers on their terms. So I think there needs to be a sort of shift where you're no longer competing in their game, you're making your own game.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, I love this. Really love this. Great. I'm giving you your flowers, ma'am. Salute. You got it right. I want more of these videos. I really want more of these videos. I want to, put in more time talking about these things and not just writing them. And by the way, I'll be leaving a link to some of the articles I talked about. I'll be leaving links to this video as well, because I believe I ran through it, the whole video. I got this on TikTok. And shout out to you, the listener. Shout out to her. Shout out to the interviewer. I really want to see if I can meet with the dude. Great guy. And I've been giving him a follow and then following up and see what comes from it. So before we call it a day, this video tells me more of the importance for people to really critically assess the risk, the cost of whatever it is they want to use AI for. Because a lot of people depend on AI for lots of things. I was chatting with a mate over here, and he told me that a lot of soldiers in Australia depend on AI for psychotherapy. I don't know what happens in the military or whatever, but if you had to resort to rely on AI for psychotherapy, first of all, needing psychotherapy is already a problem. Not to throw shades, but you're a soldier. Needing psychotherapy is a problem in itself. And then having to rely on AI means that maybe there's a lag in the human resource for giving them the help they need, or that is not enough. And to come to a point where you have to rely on AI means that you're being really vulnerable and sharing critical data, private things you've never told someone. You're just dumping it onto a model. Now imagine if there's a privacy breach. Ask yourself, what could become of that? And these are the concerns, the vulnerability concerns, the privacy concerns that should be echoed louder than whatever it is we're doing so far. So until next time, I'll see you again in another video. Ciao.
Check me pockets, man. $3 man says it's a hot $1, a $200. Big like the motherfucking $1,000 blazing hot, man. I straight to tell them, spend the money, man. When you mark the man.